Mayor, we are recording. Thank you, sir.
All right, looks like we got a few more people with us on our Zoom conference tonight. So I want to welcome everyone. And if anyone's listening online who, I'm not sure they can do that or not, but it seems like we could. I'm not sure now. Anyway, City of Cottonwood Heights, it's Tuesday, April 28th. It's 7:04 p.m. And this is our City Council business meeting. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance over the internet, and we'll ask Doug Peterson, SEN, to lead us in that pledge. Doug, will you lead us?
For which it stands, one nation, for God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, maybe some of you heard him. I didn't, but we'll move ahead. Okay, staff reports. Let's talk about the COVID-19 efforts. Tim and Paul and Julie, if you're here, who's going to lead out?
I'll lead out, Mayor, first. I've been sending the council updates very often when I receive information. We're still working very closely with Salt Lake County. We have weekly meetings with them. Mayor and I, we attend a weekly meeting, but also others are part of working groups. Mike Johnson's attending the Salt Lake County Economic Impact Working Group. He's part of that. We have Ann Etchell and Paula involved in some of the other groups related to gathering type events and event. And then we have our public safety represented through Paul Brenneman, Assistant Chief Paul Brenneman, and Chief Russo is involved in that as well as Julie Such. We also have Tim Beery, and he's going to talk in just a minute about our communications. We're getting a lot of information out. We're very close to having a draft to you of the latest newsletter, but every day we're trying to get information on our internet as well. Let me just say a few things. We're taking this in a lot of ways a week at a time. And as I say, we're working with the county. Right now, we're going to still continue our office hours at City Hall where they're at, which is Mondays from 8 to 12, Wednesdays 2 to 5, and Fridays from 8 to 10. And we still have many of our people working remotely. That is still consistent with where the state is going, moving to the next level of some of the opening of the economy. Those office hours we still feel are consistent, and we're taking that a week at a time, so we will continue that. I will say that we are still answering the phones from 8 to 5, 40 hours a week, Monday through Friday. There's emergency lines as well, so we're being responsive. I'm not getting complaints from residents on our responsiveness, and so I think we're doing some good things there. I really want to commend our staff. These few weeks, and I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, has not been easy. It's not been an easy time for anyone, any of us, and in the whole country as well as the world. But I've been very pleased with their diligence in telecommuting. There's projects that are still moving forward. There's efforts and customer service that's taking place. And I commend our staff and all that they're doing. Our police personnel are out doing what they need to do. They're working hard, and I appreciate the efforts they're making. They're still taking precautionary protocol measures to address issues to make sure that we don't have any people more at risk than others. So we appreciate the police department and their work. Our public works staff are also out. In fact, I appreciated seeing them on the streets doing some of the work with the street sweeping. They're going to be expanding and be out more and taking precautionary measures beginning this next week to do that as well. But anyway, I just really want to commend our staff. I appreciate their efforts, and I'm really grateful for all that they do. So I want to just turn a couple of minutes over to Assistant Chief Brenneman, and then also to Tim Beery after that to just tell a little bit about our communication side of things.
Thanks, Tim. So on the police department side, the emergency management side, things are pretty much as we left it 2 weeks ago. We are seeing an increase in availability of personal protective equipment. We're starting to see more hand sanitizer and masks being freed up. So we're doing better in that realm. But for the most part, it's status quo. We're responding to what we need to respond to. Business as usual for the police department side of things. So that's what I have, Tim.
Yeah, thanks, Chief. From the communication side, we've been, as Tim mentioned, we've been trying to get stuff out as quickly as we can, as often as we can. And one thing that I've been kind of weary of is I haven't wanted to overload our channels with excessive numbers. So every single day I see testing numbers and I see the positive cases and the lower cases. I haven't been posting that information as much, but what I have been posting is a lot of the updates from the county on, like this week, for example, is the shift from the red stage of the Utah Leads Together plan into the orange stage, and kind of maybe some of what that means, which businesses like restaurants might be open, which businesses might remain closed. And as the weeks have gone by, I've tried to do that with focusing on 3 specific things, really: the state of Utah, Salt Lake County, and the Canyon School District. Those have been the 3 channels that we've really tried to glean our information from and push our information from. And we've just tried to be pretty consistent with that. Every single day I am on the governor's press conference, watching it, getting information as it comes. And if it's something that we deem that impacts our community, then we push it out on the website and on Facebook and Twitter. And then we've been using a lot of that information to develop the newsletter. As Tim Tingey mentioned, we'll have a draft, and that's in the final stages. I should have it to you in your inboxes tomorrow morning to review. And once we get that reviewed, we can send it off to the printers, and that'll be ready. But that's got up-to-date information, including the Utah League of Cities and Towns calls today, as well as the governor's press conference today. That was one thing that we were waiting on, was to see if anything had changed from what we had drafted. And the press conference was pretty consistent with what we had, so I feel pretty good about where we're at on that, and we should be ready to go. As I mentioned, I should have that out to you in your inboxes tomorrow morning. And so from the communication side of things, we've really just tried to take information as we've gotten it and ensure that it is pertinent to Cottonwood Heights, to our area, and then push it out on those 3 channels as much as possible. So that's the city website, Twitter, and Facebook. And then therein, with the city website, comes an email that goes to every last one of our subscribers to the city.
So if I may just wrap up, unless there's questions, just appreciate the efforts that have been made. And like I say, Assistant Chief Brenneman and Julie Such on the emergency management side, and Tim on communication, and then all the rest of our staff that is working diligently during this time. Happy to answer any questions.
Two comments and maybe a question. I think it's important, and Tim and I have talked about this, but I think the council needs to be aware that, at least I'm sensitive to this, that one part that's critical, in addition to just the health, there's no question that's the most important thing, is the health of our constituents. But it's what we can do to facilitate our small businesses and other businesses reestablishing themselves any way possible. So I understand part of the newsletter will address that a little bit, and I think that's going to be one of our focuses going forward, is doing anything we can to facilitate them. Secondly, I just got a text just a minute ago from Ryan Perry out of Mayor Wilson's office, and she'll be having a press conference tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. to talk about what the county's position is with respect to that move from red to orange. I'm sure it'll be similar to the governor's, if not exact, but it might vary a little bit because our issues are slightly different than maybe Davis County or Southern Utah. I don't know the detail of it, but I think it's going to be close to the governor's. But she'll have her press conference tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. for everyone's information.
Yeah. Is the police window lobby open just during City Hall hours, or is that open all week? You have to unmute me.
Sorry.
It's open. There's always somebody here.
I did have someone ask if the dump passes were available. I'm assuming they're over there, so they could come in during regular business hours and pick one up.
Yes, in fact, yesterday we had someone come and pick one up. I know because I was there when he came and picked it up.
Hey, Scott, you probably should take 30 seconds and explain to everybody what that dump pass is, because it's a little bit unique.
Well, and it will be useful because we are serviced for our waste and recycling by Wasatch Front Waste and Recycling. They give members of the district of which we are, all of our residents are, the ability to come in and get a pass, and that will let them take a load of their own personal stuff out to the landfill and dispose of themselves without an extra fee. That'll become a little more crucial this year because we've needed to alter the area cleanup program. It's not going to be a general distribution of the trailers throughout the entire city for those couple weeks in August. There will be 80 trailers a day available, but they'll be on a first come first serve rental type of a thing. You won't have to pay for that, but they'll come out and give them to you in your driveway for 24 hours. So that's a slight change due to some health concerns with COVID and staffing and just being able to get the program up and running this year. This all happened just as they would have been going and recruiting drivers for that. They weren't able to meet those goals, and so we're operating on an alternative schedule. The details of that are on the Wasatch Front website, though.
Do we include anything about that in the newsletter, or could we?
We do have some information about that, and I'll look over it one more time and make sure that it's the most up to date, because we did get some information at the beginning of the month from Wasatch Front about this program, and I'll just check it and make sure, and I'll ensure that it is completely current. Admittedly, I've been focused on a number of other things, and so the Wasatch Waste thing it's been in there the whole time, but it hasn't been top of mind, so I will check that way.
Now, on our time as August, if there is something in there, my only suggestion was make sure that if someone goes to rent a trailer, perhaps that's a good time for them to talk to 5 to 10 of their neighbors and let them know that it is going to be delivered and when, because that would help alleviate some of the pressure and the demand on, overall. If they can have one person that's willing to take it for a group of homes, that would be best.
All right, thank you. Any further questions of Assistant Chief Brenneman and Tim and Scott?
Sure, I guess I do. I'm just looking at the governor's phased guidelines for the general public and businesses to maximize public health and economic reactivation. You have that right, Tim?
Yes.
Okay, Tim, both Tims. I guess I've read it. I'm still a little bit confused, but I think we could do probably a good job of making it understandable to constituents and residents. It seems like it's changed. It says interactions in decreased group sizes that enable all social distancing guidelines to be maintained, social interactions in groups of 20 or fewer. I believe that just means that you can have a group of people outside of your household, but only if it relates to weddings, funerals, or religious ceremonies. Is that how you read it as well? I think I think we just want to be clear to explain that, because when I first read it, it wasn't clear to me. And it seems like things really haven't changed, but we've allowed a teeny bit more flexibility with these gatherings. It doesn't mean that 20 of you can go, fewer than 20 of you can go to Golden Hills Park and be 6 feet apart with all your friends and neighbors. It just means in this small instance, I believe that's what it says. So as long as our newsletter can help people understand the guidelines, because I think it's really simple. It hasn't changed. We're still only supposed to recreate with our those that live with us. We're still social distancing. And if in these certain instances, you can get people to congregate. And then 3, I would just suggest that our main focus in the newsletter should really be on masks and gloves. I'm sure you guys have all been to the grocery store, and our residents, probably half of them, are not abiding by the directive by our governor, which I think is really concerning to me personally. I wear my mask and my gloves, and I do that because I have respect for those that I'm going to be with at the grocery store, and I think that we all should be respectful.
Especially us seniors.
Yes. So I guess I would hope that we could focus in. I think it's a really simple message, and I think the more things we say makes it confusing, and it's very simple what we're supposed to be doing.
I think those are good comments. And I think what you'll see tomorrow at 10 a.m., you see Mayor Wilson also define those same things because there'll be questions coming up. Then Friday at 1:30, there'll be another meeting where there'll be question and answers. So we'll continue to emphasize that. But I think you're exactly right. I don't think it's a big change. We might see rec centers open up, but they will have strict requirements to be in, which that's one of those marginal gray areas. But you may be able to go to a salon. You may be able to have nails done, a few of those things, but they'll have strict requirements. And we'll see if that happens tomorrow or not.
And,
Yeah, sorry.
oh, to
I
add
just
to
have,
that- oh, go-
I just
go
have one
ahead.
more thing related to the small business, Mayor. There's a business in Cottonwood Heights I've been trying to patronize. I think it's called Plant Jungle or something like that. And I sent them an email. I said, hey, here's a picture. Can you help me with the landscaping? Because I really think it's important to support these businesses. And she said, I'm sorry, we're closing in a week. But that's the kind of business that I would think that they could create something for you. They could leave it outside. You could pay remotely and pick it up. And I really struggle that I agree with you, Mayor. If there's anything that we can do to help some of those small businesses open up.
Well, that surprised me. I know Planet Jungle and many of the plants we have in our city hall have been rented from them. So that's,
so maybe I'm wrong with that. The last communication I received from them is, I'm sorry, we're going to have.
But I think with Mike Johnson and his staff, that's something I know they're focused on with anything we can do, because it's critical. It is, people don't realize, I think people do realize, I shouldn't trivialize it, but it's critical.
And I also, I was in a conference call today on this, that the state is still working on clarifying all of that better and sending out information they're hoping to have it out by tomorrow afternoon. So I'm hoping that provides a little bit of clarity as well.
Okay, information. Any further comments or questions regarding the COVID-19 efforts by the city? Again, bottom line, the staff have been amazing working in difficult situations, and from budget preparation to public safety to public works. I know too, with spring coming and parks opening, there's a lot of challenges. And if you go from Cottonwood Heights to Sandy to Draper, they all have slightly different interpretations, which is also frustrating, because you go to Cottonwood Heights, you cannot play pickleball. You can go to Sandy, you can play if you're in your own family, and go to Draper, you can probably find a court. So it's a little bit different, but I think it's been effective. And with 42 deaths in our city, not our city, within our state, half of those are in long-term care facilities. So I think the county and the state have been very effective, and I applaud the efforts, and just, we don't want to take a step backwards now. Okay, Tim, do we have any citizen comments?
No, I'm just looking. I am not seeing any emails that have come in at this point. So I don't think we have any.
Okay, Scott, you want to do a financial quarterly report? Scott Georges.
Yep. Let me. So, last Friday, I believe, this report was sent out with council communications, and it's been on the city website for probably another week beyond that. This is our March 31st month-end financial report. So we had a little bit of the current shutdown going at that time. However, most of our revenues that are posted in here are from periods prior to that. Most of our real property taxes here have been collected at this point in time, because property taxes mostly come in at the end of November and December, maybe a little bit into January. But I'll go into a couple of graphs on some of these other items in terms of the revenues, focusing predominantly on the general fund. So this is our general fund sales taxes. This is results through January. So at the time that we closed the month, we had the results through January. Our budget was $6,350,000. The prior year we had received $6,341,000, so almost identical to our budget. At the end of January, we had collected $3.97 million. That puts us about $276,000 ahead of 2019. So we're in a good position, and that's one of the reasons why the projected ending sales tax is $6,300,000 for this year, and that's part of the item that's included in the tentative budget, the proposed budget packet that we've been going over in there. Moving to the next page, our county option sales tax, so that's related to highway. We have budgeted $600,000. We don't have any other prior history because this is a new tax this year, and this is at $346,000 through 58% of the year. So we're just barely behind on this one, where we would expect to be. This one, it does have a slightly different distribution method than the regular sales tax, because it goes to the county first, and then the county sends it out to us instead of the population data being shared through the whole state. So it's a little bit different than that. Moving on to the next is our municipal energy tax, and this is on power and gas, not gas for your car, but natural gas. You can see that we've had a tendency to reduce. It was a $100,000 reduction between 2018 and 2019. We have in our budget $2,050,000. As we look at our collections to date, and this is through February on this particular line item, we have collected almost $1.4 million, which is only $16,000 behind last year. However, in terms of our projection, I think we'll be closer to just under $2 million on this particular line item. How it's going to progress through the year, but this is one of those line items that we're adjusting a little bit downward as we go into our next year's budget. Oops. Moving to our cable franchise tax. Again, this is taxes on cable TV, dish providers, other things like that. We had seen a little bit of erosion in prior years, anywhere up to about $10,000. We have budgeted $325,000 we've collected through December. It usually comes in quarterly payments to us. We have received $163,000 to date, and that's all of $244, not $244,000 or anything, but $244 behind 2019. So that puts us really close to getting what we received last year, which is what our budget is. So I'm not thinking that that's going to be much different than our budget. The Class C roads funds, we've had a bit of a reduction. There was a little bit, I think, of a recalculation in 2018 of how that distribution happened. But we've seen reductions in a general sense in this particular category year over year. And again, this goes to, as we have cars becoming more fuel efficient, we'll have less gallons of fuel purchased, and that's how this tax is collected. At 85% of the year, so this one, it's not specific to June. We just have 12 periods that we collect through the year, and this is through 10 periods. And at that point in time, we have collected 1 million, just a little over a million, 1,063,000. That's $44,000 ahead of where we were last year. I think our projection has us being pretty close to what last year's collections were, because we do expect to see a little bit of a slowdown in this, especially in April and May and June, over what we did in the prior year. And so we do show some reduction in this for that period, moving through the end of the year. This is our general fund expense trend. And so as you match these bands up year over year, sometimes you'll see, clear back here in 2017, we were way ahead of where we were in these next few years, and even in this year. But some of it's timing of when we have payments going through. I think we're in a pretty good place in terms of having things go through in a pretty timely manner. We're at about just under 71% of the year, at 75% of the year being having gone by. We do have a few expenditures that hit us a little bit late, but I'm not seeing anything that's giving me any concern in terms of being in a negative position at the end of the year. I think we'll have a reasonable underexpend in this at the end of the year, but also our revenues are not going to be as robust at the end of the year. And so we will be slightly ahead of where our budget is at the end of the year in terms of our fund balance projection, but it's not huge like it has been in years past, where we may be seeing as much as a $500,000 swing on our fund balance projection going forward. There are more intricate details in the individual report that came out. These are the different most of the different stuff that I went over is in this tax area of the revenues. And then I also included the Class C roads funds, which is on this line item about in the middle of the page. I don't think I focused on any of the other line items. They're mainly up in this top category, which is where the bulk of our revenues come from. And then as you move down into other pages, you'll see the expenditures broken out by more different areas. And then you'll see the general fund totals here, right here on our budget of $17,550,000. You can see where we are, to date, which is not, especially when you look at fund balance, is not too representative of where we'll end the year. And then you can see the other funds as you move into this, capital projects and so on and so forth, which we always run a little bit behind on some of our capital projects, as some of them aren't expected to finish in the year that they're done. But I don't know if there are any questions that anybody may have as we move forward through this or anything.
Anybody have any questions? One follow-up question. I'm sorry, I should look for a hand. I'm assumed the revenue shortfalls, even though they're late into the budget year, you've taken those in account when you've projected the year-end underspend?
Yes. Let me see if I can make this a little bigger. So this is our general fund. So what you can see is our adjusted budget right here. This is one of the items that goes with the proposed budget documentation that we've been talking about in our work meetings. But you can see our year-to-date amount here on our actual, this is property taxes, and then where we figure we're going to land for the end of the year. This has our sales taxes where we are currently, and then you can see that we're going to have about a $50,000 shortfall projected in our sales taxes over our budget right here. You can see, let's see, let me find another one here. The Class C roads, $1,240,000. We've got that actually budgeted to be right where we are. We're actually ahead in our Class C roads. This one has the potential that we may not hit it directly, but I don't think it's going to be a huge hit on that in an individual month. As an individual month is around $100,000 net hit. So if we saw a reduction in this in a given month, I wouldn't expect that we're going to see massive reductions beyond what I've projected. It'd be maybe in the $10,000 or $20,000 range. So we've got some of those built in, and you can see those as we go down through. Prior to the COVID happening on this particular line item in sales taxes, I would have expected that to be closer to $6,600,000 at the end of the year. So most of our reduction is in that line where we're seeing the reduction, and then a little bit in this county auction sales tax and stuff.
So is that a budget adjustment that we'll need to do next month?
No, it's just going to be a difference from budget to actual. We won't do an adjustment for it.
Okay, any further discussions with Scott? Again, it's something we'll be monitoring month to month going forward, so. Any further presentation, Scott?
Nope, I don't have anything else with that.
Okay. No further questions. Let's move to the agenda 5.0. We have 5 or 6 action items. The first item, which is Resolution 2020-13, reappointments to the Architectural Review Commission. We're going to table that for 1 week for some additional information and review. Again, appreciate that sensitivity to get information out and getting those reappointments done in a week from now. Next item, 5.2, is Resolution 2020-14. It's approving an interlocal agreement for a bicycle repair station at the mouth of Big Cottonwood Canyon as it comes off the Big Cottonwood Canyon Trail. Mike Johnson, you want to introduce that quickly for our audience?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. This is an agreement with Salt Lake County. In the past year, the Salt Lake County Bicycle Advisory Committee has purchased a bicycle repair station at the recommendation of one of the city's residents who serves on that committee. The intent is to install that at the Big Cottonwood Canyon Park and Ride. The agreement states that the county will purchase it and deliver it to the city, and the city is responsible to install it and maintain it.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments regarding that resolution?
Do we have an annual estimate on the maintenance of that?
No, it's negligible. I mean, it's the installation is pretty straightforward. It shouldn't take long or be too difficult. And then annual maintenance will just be monitoring the equipment that's on it, perhaps replacing tools occasionally, but nothing major.
Cool.
It'd be neat to get a bike shop or something to sponsor the site and do that for us. But anyway, any further discussions? I entertain a motion for adoption of Resolution 14.
I move that we adopt Resolution 2020-14.
It's been moved by Councilmember Bruce. Do I have a second?
I second that.
Seconded by Councilmember Peterson. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Councilmember Michael.
Yes.
Councilmember Bruce.
Yes.
Councilmember Bracken.
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson.
Yes.
And I will vote yes. The next item is a Resolution 2020-15. It's approving an independent contractor agreement with YESCO for relocation of a pylon sign on Highland Drive on Fort Union just below Highland Drive. Matt, you want to introduce that real quickly?
Yeah, it's this is part of the intersection project of Highland and Fort Union. This is one of the remaining items left. We have been given the funds as part of the project from the state, so this is not a general fund, and it's already money in our account. And we put out the bid, and YESCO has the bid on this, and they will be moving the McDonald's sign on Fort Union south side, which is in front of the Taco Bell. which right now presently sits in the middle of one of our sidewalks.
Any questions of Matt regarding this resolution? It's been years in the making. Hearing none, I entertain a motion for
Move that
adoption.
we approve resolution 2020-15.
It's been moved by Councilmember Bracken. Do I have a second?
Second
Who is that? Tally?
was Councilmember
Steve.
Michael.
Oh, it's been seconded by Councilmember Michael. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'd call for the vote. Councilmember Peterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bracken,
Yes.
Councilmember Bruce,
Yes.
Councilmember Michael,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. Just as a side note, doesn't have much bearing, but Yesco, who's doing that, is a business that's, the roots are here in Cottonwood Heights, so that's a good thing, I think. Next item is 5.4, Resolution 2020-16, approving amendment number 1 to an infrastructure grant agreement with the state of Utah for the East Jordan Canal Trail adjacent to Mount View Park. It's more just a continuation of the funding to give us time to do our due diligence and have the community input. Matt, any further comments on that?
No, I think you've summed it up. The only thing I would add is that for those listening, we are still looking to hold the public hearing for the residents that are adjacent to or along this trail to give them a chance to have input as per direction from the city council. This is just an extension of time so that we can do that.
Thank you. Any further comments or discussion on this resolution? Hearing none, I entertain a motion for approval.
I move that we approve resolution 2020-16.
It's been moved by Councilmember Bruce. Do I have a second?
I'll
Second.
second that.
I'll let Doug take it.
Okay, it's his district. He can have it. Okay,
I'll
so it's
second
seconded
it.
by Councilmember Peterson. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. Councilmember Bracken,
Yes.
Councilmember Bruce,
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Michael,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. Okay, the next item of business, which is 5.5, is Resolution 2020-17. It's authorizing and clarifying certain retirement contribution benefits rights as it deals with our Utah State retirement system. Tim, you want to introduce that real quickly for the audience?
Yeah, URS has recently modified certain of its policies and procedures governing the participation in its retirement programs, and it's requested that city councils formally adopt those changes, and it clarifies elements related to elected officials as part-time employees that they are not covered in the URS eligible participation. And then this also deals with SB 56, the 2020 legislation for all city employees participating in the new public safety and firefighter tier 2 contributory retirement system. So it relates to those two elements of retirement systems.
Any questions or further discussion on this resolution? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion for adoption.
Move that we approve resolution 2020-17.
It's been moved by Councilmember Bracken. Do I have a second?
Second.
This has been seconded by Councilmember Bruce. Any further discussion on this resolution? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Councilmember Peterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bracken,
Yes.
Councilmember Bruce,
Yes.
Councilmember Michael,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. Okay, the last item of business is our consent calendar for meeting minutes of April 7th, 2020. Any discussion on those minutes, or if not, I'd entertain a motion for adoption.
I move that we adopt the minutes.
It's been moved by Councilmember Bruce. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
It's been seconded by it's been seconded by Councilmember Peterson. Any further discussion? Shane, I got a question. Do I need to do a roll call on these?
On the minutes,
Yeah.
I think just a voice vote is fine.
Okay, that's what I thought too.
I would ask for if there are any opposed.
Yeah.
I think roll call or immunity.
Yeah, I've done it both way in the past, and I thought just a voice vote was fine. So I wanted to make sure. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Okay, that's the completion of our business meeting tonight. Thank you again, everyone. And again, the budget that we've talked about tonight, both in our report today and in our work session, is tentative, and we'll present that to the community on next Tuesday at 7 o'clock.
We do not have any further business afterwards in the work session, Mayor. Is that correct?
Right, and we do not have a closed session, and we have no further business in the work session. So I'd entertain a motion to adjourn until next Tuesday.
I move that we adjourn our session with a thank you to all of our police officers, firemen, public works people, and other staff that are working hard for our citizens.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, we're adjourned, and I'm sure we'll be getting some information to you on a few of the topics that have been discussed through the week. So thank you, everyone. Be safe.
Thank
Good night.
you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.